You are a war criminal. The CIA is after you. You have incriminating documents on your desktop that you absolutely want the agency to find. You got a briefcase full of fly secrets. You got a video teaching the long forgotten and forbidden art of locking the taskbar in Windows 10. And finally, you legally obtained a text file containing some nuclear launch codes that you absolutely want to fall into the wrong hands. How can you make sure that the CIA will not have a hard time finding these files? Now, my channel is usually known for teaching you how to do things rather than how not to do things. So I ask you, dear tech flies, for help. How not to hide files. So, with the help of you, dear viewers, I will be teaching you how not to hide files. Boss of the FBI is saying, and I'm sensing a slight conflict of interest here, do nothing. The advantage of this method is that anyone with an IQ that is not negative will be able to find these files. Rename them to "Don't click, this is hidden." One approach you could easily do is to rename the files to some super mega unsuspicious file names like "Don't click, this is hidden, this is secret, don't open." The benefit of this approach is that it's easy to do, but the drawback of this approach is that people with an IQ below room temperature might struggle to actually consider these files as they are secret and they should obviously not open them. Just create a folder called System23. An approach that some people like to take is to create a folder, call it System23, and put all the important files in there. Now, the advantage of this is that this is also pretty simple to do, and the CIA will still be relatively easily able to find these files. Now, what I cannot recommend, what some people are doing, is to put this folder next to the System32 folder in the Windows directory. The reason for this is that you might get confused as to which of these is the real one, and so might also the CIA. Make a folder called "Please Click on Desktop Folder" and put the files you do not want to hide in there. Similarly to what we have just seen, we create a folder on the desktop and this time we call it "Please Click." Now, this method has an advantage compared to the previous method because now we are giving the searcher explicit instructions where to find the files by explicitly naming the folder "Please Click." If, despite all of these efforts, they still cannot find the files, the blame is certainly on them. Move files to USB thumb drive, then physically throw the drive far away. Maybe make use of alternative data streams, put it on a USB stick with a sticker called "private" labeled on there. Yeah, almost got me there. Delete them, column P. You can't find what isn't there. Searching in a recycle bin is cheating. You can take the files that you have on a desktop and you could surely just park them in the recycle bin. But I have a slight problem with this approach. The recycle bin is a place for files that are going to be deleted and not for files that are going to be presented. Or I don't know, do you put your decorative elements at home in the recycle bin for others to admire? Well, I certainly don't. Move them to the recycle bin. Store them in the recycle bin. Now you're feeling like you're having a déjà vu, right? I mean, we just talked about this right before, right? Well, there is a method that pros are using to put files in the recycle bin but not mark them as trash. Thus, when the trash gets taken out, these files still remain in there. For this, what you have to do is you have to move the files into the recycle bin directory, which is your user ID, and not follow the regular file structure of files in the recycle bin. If you want to know more about this, you can watch this video in the info corner. Anyway, the problem with this approach is that if you open the recycle bin, it will only show you the trash, so it will appear as empty, thus making it a bit harder for these files to be found. If you want to restore them, you just have to take them out from the recycle bin where you just placed them and put them back on your desktop, and now the files are visible again. Delete the file, and whenever you want to access it, use HDD recovery software to get it back. Excellent suggestion, thank you. So look at these wonderful files on a desktop. Do you see them? Well, now they're gone because I just deleted them permanently. So if I want to have them back, I have to use file recovery software. So I'm opening the browser and I'm getting some file recovery software. I'm going to skip the installation process. And now once we are here, we can click on scan and wait for the scan to finish. It is several hours later and oh, I sure am glad that I can finally access my files. I don't think that I can recommend this approach. Name it Microsoft Edge and change the icon accordingly. Now no one will dare to touch it anymore. Now depending on which browser the CIA is preferring to use, you might want to create a folder that is resembling this browser. If that is Microsoft Edge, what you have to do is create a folder called Microsoft Edge, go to the properties, then you go to customize, you go to change icon. Now in the browse you have to find the executable of the browser that they're preferably using. If it's Edge, you have to go to the program files, to Microsoft Edge application, open msedge.exe and select the Edge icon. Now if it's Firefox or some other browser, you just have to do it for Firefox. Then you move the files into the folder. And now you have an amazing Microsoft Edge. So next time the CIA is coming and opening the files on your computer and they see, oh, there's Microsoft Edge, and they click on it, they will find your files. Perfect. Rename the file with a different extension so that it appears to be gibberish. Now an easy approach to not hide the files is to rename the file extension, like for example here to exe or to RTF, and you try to open it and now WordPad is just displaying a garbled mess. Or you can take this JPEG file and you rename it to PNG, and well, you shouldn't do that because it's still an image file and the image viewer will still be able to open it, but you can rename it to TXT. And now again, if you open it, it's going to be a garbled mess. The upside of this method is that it's quite easy to do and undo. The downside of this method is that it takes whoever is looking at this file probably at least 5 to 10 seconds to understand that this is not a text file but in fact an image file. Convert the file into a TXT, then copy it down character for character into a Unicorn secret diary with lock and hide the key. Make sure to note the location down so you don't lose it with a sticky note on your desktop. Alright, so just as we have previously seen, we will take one of the files on the desktop. We'll take the JPEG file. We're just going to do this with one file. We're renaming the file extension from JPEG to TXT so that we can open the file in the text editor and look at this wonderfully garbled mess. And after that, we will do exactly as we have been instructed. Just change the header a couple of bytes and you will see error opening files laughing emoji. Alright, let us do this. So we will take a hex editor of any kind, we'll import the file, and we'll replace the first byte. Instead of FF, we say it should say, I don't know, 00. We save this, and now you see that the thumbnail has disappeared and we cannot open the file because Windows doesn't support this file format. The good thing about this is that it's easy to do and it's easy to restore, but the bad thing is that you need special software like a hex editor to actually know that you have an image file here, which might be a bit annoying for the CIA. By the way, if you ever wanted to feel like President Bush and, casually hide some facts, all you have to do is take a text file and add FF and FE to the beginning of the file as the first 2 bytes. Now, if you open the text file, it will get recognized as UTF-16, which results in displaying some weird Chinese characters. All you have to do to restore it is to just remove these 2 bytes again from the beginning of the file, and it will be able to be read once more as it was previously. Now, I don't really like this approach because it obscures information too much when you actually should put it more on a display, Move them to the desktop, then right-click on the desktop, uncheck View, Show Desktop Icons. Somebody once told me the world is not gonna be able to find the files if you right-click on a desktop, go to View, and deselect Show Desktop Icons. Now, I'm not too worried about the CIA, they are pretty smart guys and they know that they can just right-click on a desktop, go to View again, and check Show Desktop Icons again. But for anyone else, it might be an issue. Put them in System32 in a folder named Microsoft Defender, no one would check. Now, I'm not entirely convinced that no one would check, and on top of that, I know that some people do not hold special regard for the integrity of the files in their system directories, as we've already previously seen as we put some secret information in System23. But now what we should do is create a folder in System32 itself named Microsoft Defender, which we can certainly do. The problem with this is that you might get confused as to where exactly put your files. Was it Microsoft Defender folder? Was it one of these other million obscure folders? And this might of course also be a bit confusing for the CIA, but not too much, because what they can always do is they can take a fresh Windows installation, subtract all the files that they find there from the files that they find in your system, and thus find the files that you were trying to show them. Create a 16-layer deep maze of folders, each containing 2 more folders, and hide files in only one of the deepest path folders, leaving the rest empty. I'm going to spare you the rest of the comment, I hope you get the idea. But in general, what we need is this wonderful script to create a bunch of empty folders for us, which you could of course do manually, but it will probably take you a few months or something. Because even this script, believe it or not, took about 10 minutes to create all these folders in my file system. Now of course the first few layers are easy, but as soon as you get really deep, it has to create more and more and more folders. If you want to know more about this, you might want to look into exponential growth. But once it's done, you have a wonderful structure of folders, which you can use to put your files in there. For example, you think of a wonderful code, a pin code of sorts, 0110001, whatever you like, and you put files in there. And now, unlike the comments specified, you could also put the files in different directories if you like, an additional challenge of not finding your files. Then you're hiding your files in a perfect maze where you don't know where you put the files and you just have a hard time finding them. But then you might ask me, hold on, if I want the CIA to be easily able to find these files, what am I even doing here? Like, not even I can remember the pin code. Well, the good thing is you can find the files pretty easily by just using the search. You need to know the file extension, granted, so it's not that easy. But if you know the file extension, all you have to do is enter star.extension in the search box like I'm doing, and you are finding all the files. At the end, you can just delete the folder. This is maybe another reason why I shouldn't do this at home, because this part of the clip is sped up at times 30. So be careful. Another approach you could take is to do a pin code source of folder where you have digits from 0 to 9, sort of like a keypad, and you hide your files behind a 4-digit pin code, like you would on a keypad. The good thing is it's just as easy to use as the previous one. The files are just as easily extractable using the search again, and creation and deletion of this folder doesn't take 2 ages. Put the files on a floppy disk and then use a magnet to stick it to the fridge. Creating a more hidden folder by using Alt+255 to type a space character that Windows will allow in the file name, and setting the folder icon to the transparent icon in Properties Customize. Now, as the commenter has already correctly said, you cannot use a space in a folder name on Windows, but what you can do is you can use Alt+255, which will use transparent character. Then we go to Properties, we go to Customize, and we select one of these empty icons. No, not the white icons, I said transparent ones, please. Yes, these ones, yeah, thank you. And now, we still have this gray border, but you just have to make the desktop icon smaller, and the border is gone. Now we have a fully, perfectly invisible folder that you cannot see. It's nowhere to be seen, well, unless you do the selection, so if the CIA is not stupid, it will find this. And this will obviously also occur if you hit Ctrl+A. This will also occur if you go to the desktop in Explorer, you will also find it. So it's It's actually pretty easy to find, so maybe not a bad idea for putting your files in. Mark them as hidden file. A perfect way for beginners to not hide files is to just mark them as hidden. You right click them, go to properties, check the hidden check mark, and then they're hidden. Now for me they aren't, because I set my system to have hidden files visible. To fix that, you go to view, show, and deselect hidden items. Now they are gone, but they're not really gone, and they're actually pretty easy to find. After all, this hidden thing is just a flag, it's just an attribute, and you can just as easily revert it. In order to make the files visible again, or what the CI would also do if they would look at your system, they would have to go to the Explorer again and hit View, Show, Hidden Items again, and now everything is back as it was before. Put it 2 levels inside a PW protected zip file. Sounds like someone hasn't read the assignment properly, because I was asking for ways how not to hide files and not for ways how to hide files. But just for completeness sake, let's do it. So you right click the files, you put them in a zip folder with 7-zip, because that one knows how to encrypt zip files. You set a super strong password that no one knows. And then you have a zip file, an encrypted zip file. Now that's wonderful, but it's not sufficient, because this is not hiding our files. If you open the zip file, you will see how the files are still visible. You still see a file listing, even if you can't access the files themselves. Now, if you want to actually properly hide the files, you need to put it in another zip folder. So basically encrypt it again, preferably using a different password that is much longer than the previous one. And now, of course, you have to delete the original zip folder first. And if you open the zip folder now, you will not see into the file listing, because all you see is an encrypted zip folder, and if you try to access it, it will ask for the password. And this is exactly why I said that this is not a great way to not hide files, because in order to know what files are inside, you need to somehow crack the zip folder, which might or might not be difficult depending on the amount of resources that are available at your disposal. The last one we're going to talk about today is to click read more. Alternate data streams. Now this is another one that I could argue that hasn't read the assignment properly, because doing this actually hides the files, so they aren't really easily visible anymore. I've made an entire video about alternate data streams. You can find it at the info button. But for this video, just a short summary for you to understand. Alternate data streams are basically files inside files. So you can attach a file to another file in NTFS only. And by doing this, it is hidden to most programs, because most programs will not consider these alternate data streams. But using CMD, you can see these streams and you can access them. Now the problem with this is that it's super easy to put a file inside an alternate data stream. But the only thing that you can safely extract from there again is a text file. And I have tried many different ways, but whenever I put a video in there or an image file, and tried restoring it, it would just not work. I would just get a garbled mess of binary, which is not openable anymore. So please be advised that if you use this method, you should only use it on text files. Just keep in mind that this info is not encrypted, so if anyone finds it, the info is openly visible to them. And anyway, why would you put your data in there? I mean, that makes it pretty hard to find, right? You would want it to be visible, so you should probably refer to one of the other methods presented in this video if you want to not hide files. But now, my dear tech flies, I don't want to let you go before providing you with another method that you should use in emergencies. For example, if you have too many files on your disk, or if you need to reduce the number of files on your disk to save file allocation table space because you already used it all up, or if you simply need to make a point like I have to do right now, then you should use this method that I am going to show you now. You need a somewhat flexible format, like a JPEG for example. It doesn't work with all file formats, but I'll get to that later. So take a JPEG file, open it in a hex editor of your choice, and then put some textual information in there. Scroll somewhere deep into the middle and paste a bunch of text right there. For example, I'm pasting my nuclear launch codes in here. Save the file, close the window and open the image again, and you will see that the image still works. It's a valid image file and you won't even notice the slightest difference as long as you don't input like a heck ton of data in there. Just pay attention. If you happen to edit this image, for example by opening it in Paint and saving it again, you will find that the information that you just stored is lost. So make very sure that you're not editing images that contain any information that you still need to extract at a later point in time. Also, there is another caveat. As I just mentioned previously, you cannot do this with every file format. If you tried this with a PNG, you will find that after saving, the PNG is sort of corrupted because it tries to interpret the data that you have in there, and while reading this data it will just fail decoding and then it will fail rendering the rest of the image. So you need to use a flexible file format, and JPEG is perfect for that. Now this pretty much obscures the files. They are not openly visible and you really need to look microscopically to find the data again, which is not ideal in a situation where you do not want to hide a file. So ideally you only use this method in emergencies when you really have to reduce the number of files on your disk because you have already 2 trillion files on your file system. So this is it, 21 ways how not to hide your precious secrets from the CIA. I hope that you have learned something today and can make good use of this knowledge that I just gave you. If not, I won't take it back, it's your problem now. What I will take, however, is a like if you enjoyed this video and a subscription if you want more, and I will give you my deepest appreciation in exchange. As I'm speaking these words, my brain is fried from all the editing work, so make sure to fly by next time.